Thank you, Malini. Thank you. That was a very heartwarming welcome on behalf of Dr. Meetu Allur and all of us at ADAPT. Malini Chip, trustee, ADAPT, author, activist, raison d'etre of this organization and inspiration for all of us. As Malini says, it is an absolute honor to extend a hearty welcome to our chief guest, Honorable Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. I also welcome the two presidents of ADAPT, Padma Bhushan Dr. Farooq Udwadia and Padma Shri Dr. Shobharan Nandi. Welcome to all those who have flown here from far and wide, and all those who have always been our cheerleaders and friends, and to all our parents. Welcome. It is a tradition that Dr. Allur established when she set up the Spastic Society of India to start every auspicious occasion by lighting a lamp. So I request our Chief Justice, our Chief Guest, to please come up on stage. I request Dr. Shobharan Nandi, I request Dr. Farooq Udwadia, and of course, Dr. Meetu Allur to please come up on stage and let us carry on the tradition of light and love. The lighting of the lamp will be on a beautiful Bengali prayer, melodiously sung by Aparajita Mandal, Itishri Date, Mamta Mukherjee, Sangeeta Manda, and Momita Das, and Ranjana Mandal.
আগুনের পরশমণি ছোঁয়াও প্রাণে এ জীবন পূর্ণ করো, এ জীবন পূর্ণ করো, এ জীবন পূর্ণ করো, এ জীবন পূর্ণ করো দহন দানে, আগুনের পরশমণি ছোঁয়াও প্রাণে। তুলে ধরো তোমার ওই দেবালয়ে প্রদীপ করো, আমার দেহখানি তুলে ধরো তোমার ওই দেবালয়ে প্রদীপ করো, নিশিদিন আলোক শিখা জ্বলুকারে, নিশিদিন আলোক শিখা জ্বলুকারে, এ আগুনের পরশমণি ছোঁয়াও প্রাণে।
Thank you so much to all of you, and I would request all of you to please take your seat on the dais. With great pleasure, I now invite Dr. Meetu Allur, a visionary founder of ADAPT, who transformed the lives of countless children with disabilities in India. Inspired by her daughter Malini, she built a movement of love, dignity, and inclusion where none existed before. Her pioneering work in education, healthcare, and policy opened doors of hope for families long left invisible. Honored with the Padma Shri and global recognitions, she remains a beacon of compassion, courage, and change. Please welcome Dr. Meetu Allur.
Good morning and a warm welcome to the launch of our journal entitled The Journal of Inclusion and Disability, International Research, Neuro Rehab, and Empowerment. It is a great honor for us to have you with us, Your Honorable Justice Chandrachud. Let's give him a little. Just want to share a few details about you. Justice Chandrachud's academic brilliance is well known. He has a doctorate from Harvard. He's brought academic vigor and eloquence into his judgments on disability. He has redrawn the legal map of rights and made the Constitution accessible for people with disability through his judgments and through his life and through the inspiration we gather of the way he has led his own life. In his judgments, he has made valuable contributions for disabled people. And I'm coming to that. He has not only brought rights home, he's brought hundreds and millions of disabled people into the forefront of public life, especially when they were just shunned, isolated, segregated, and made fun of. All that made it easier, sir, to ensure that the disabled children were included into the right to education. Now that, I must say, took 50 years of demonstration, and as you know that I was first asked, what is spastic? Is it plastic or something? So it was really virgin territory for this country. And now the RTE again left out disabled children. So again started all the advocacy, meeting all the key people and the eminent people, and now you'll be happy to know that education for all means disabled children as well. Now, so that with your judgments, you made that easier for us. Yeah. Justice Chandrachud's impressive daughters, Priyanka and Mahi, who he and his wife Kalpana have adopted many years ago, are an epitome of the spirit that our organization ADAPT, which as you know is able, disabled, all people together, cherish in our hearts. So very few people I know go out really to adopt disabled children. So today, there's no other person than Honorable Justice Chandrachud, former Chief Justice of India, to launch the first academic journal on inclusion in India and Asia. So thank you, sir, for being with us today. It is going to mean a great deal for the cause. I would like to also say that, and welcome, Honorable, I say Honorable because Padma Bhushan, Dr. Farooq Udwadia is here, Dr. Shomiran Nandi, Padma Shri is here, and all of us who helped to make this journal possible. The journal is new, but how is it new? It's not that this is the first journal on disability. No, there are many journals on disability. This is the first journal on disability and inclusion. It's a biannual published by Walters Kluwer, and we will endeavor to raise it to international standards. But I should mention that it is the brainchild, or have I mentioned before, of Dr. Shomiran Nandi, and please applaud him. and Dr. Farooq Udwadia. I know they get a little cross with me, but I want to mention that Dr. Shomran Nandi is one of India's most distinguished gastrointestinal surgeons, academic and medical editors. He's edited huge number of journals, and he's an undergrad from Cambridge, and Guy's Hospital in London is something he helped to set up. He's lectured in Cambridge, London, Harvard. And when he returned to Delhi's All India Institute and also now Gangaram, he's set up the Department of Gastrointestinal Surgery and Liver Transplant. He's written over 37 books and authored or co-authored 248 research reports. So he's indeed very erudite, hugely intellectual. Dr. Udwadia is a legendary physician, teacher, and author, and introduced modern intensive care medicine in India, trained generations of doctors, and combined clinical excellence with humanism plus scholarship. Dr. Udwadia is a renowned pulmonologist and consultant physician at Breach Candy, which he practically started. He was awarded a distinction in medicine at both the MBBS and MD examination. He was elected Fellow of the Royal College of Physicians, Edinburgh, at the age of 38 years, the youngest Indian ever to be so elected. He has several, over 50 publications in international and national journals, chiefly in respiratory medicine, tropical eosinophilia, tetanus, and critical care. But I think most of all, Farooq is also known for his humanism. And I think his book, Tabiat, brings that out very well, where he actually stresses the need to listen to the patient and set up empathy and a rapport, caring or administering medicine. Faith, he says, has a remarkable ability to heal. And if the patient has faith in the doctor, that's halfway over the operation. Besides that, I just want to share my views on this because I'm particularly interested in that too, is his study of arts, culture and music, painting. And I'm not sure if any of you have heard him actually on the guitar or sing. He always shies away from this, and I think you should one day make him do that, a concert. So you've got a multifaceted personality and with an absolute human touch. So that is why both of them are here. There are quite a few people here also, I must say, the parents and the volunteers, and eminent people on the editorial board of the journal. Many of them are very well known in England. Actually, one is someone called Sir Tom Shakespeare, who has had hydrocephalus, and he is also a descendant of William Shakespeare. But we have lots of very well-known doctors, and I can see them all here, very modest, and they have all produced very, very dynamic services. So they're very service-oriented, and it's always been in the poorest quarters of the country. That's Armida, I think, is here, and so is Praveena over here, Taral is here, and another person I shouldn't miss out, who's a fellow of Harvard, is Surajit. I'm not sure where he is, but Surajit Nandi has always been self-critical and critical of us, saying why research, who cares, how do you do it, and what is the outcome, who will read it. And I think he's sitting right at the back hiding. So just a last word about ADAPT. As you know, that ADAPT has been the forerunner in changing attitudes towards disability and innovation in treatment. We've tried to teach that professionalism with care. Welcome, Mr. Ashish Shelar. I'm so pleased that you could come. So I personally feel extremely proud of the organization because any organization, the quality of an organization is the staff. And I call them my colleagues. They're all hugely dedicated and working for a pittance, and it's beyond power, prestige, money. And this I find amazing, and it's been wonderful for me to work with them. And I just want to end by saying that your presence, sir, will give a deep focus on disability and on people who are needy, hopeless, neglected, misunderstood, marginalized. So, thank you again for thinking about us and being with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Meetu, the architect of India's disability movement and above all, a mother. Thank you so much. I would now invite one of India's most distinguished physicians and thinkers, Dr. Farooq Udwadia. Legendary, of course, as we know him in Mumbai and India all over, known for his clinical brilliance and human approach. And of course, profound insights, not just in medicine, but literature and art too. Please join me in warmly welcoming Padma Bhushan, Dr. Farooq Udwadia.
The Honorable Chief Justice Chandrachud, Meetu, Dr. Nandi, I'm so happy to be here. I think this is a great organization. It is a unique organization because it looks after people who have not been looked after for years and years and years. Absolutely marginalized young boys and girls who have been born with a handicap and because of that were just shoved aside and not allowed to join the mainstream of life. And this is what this organization has done. It's not just the physiotherapy and the therapy that is given and the individuals who have tried to teach them. Much more important than that, it is this organization which has allowed these children to join the mainstream of human existence, given them a chance to join the others and try and be as best as possible like the others. And for that you need education. I think the single most important thing in this world and for this country, I think, is education. And that is what the government should really do. And that is what Meetu Alur has actually done for these young, deprived children. For that reason alone, I think this institution, this ADAPT, as they call it, it's an apt word, adapt to the world, adapt to the normal existence of life, meet the challenges of life, do that, and you will therefore have a great, great benefit in the future years. I congratulate Meetu for what she has done, and I congratulate all the workers who have been with her, selfless people who have devoted their time and energy to make sure that this organization prospers and climbs from one step to the other so that it has reached what it is now and it will reach further out to what it has already done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for being our guiding light, for sharing your insights and expertise in our institutional review board, for critiquing and thus helping develop inquiry mindsets and skills and transforming practitioners into researchers. Thank you, sir. It is my pleasure to invite an extraordinary surgeon, teacher and writer, Dr. Shubharan Nandi. a strong advocate for integrity and accountability in medicine. His contributions to surgical practice, teaching, and institution building have been exemplary. Dr. Nandi is also a celebrated writer and author, and he is part of so many journals that we also have lost count of that completely. Dr. Nandi represents the very best in medical practice and thought. He has been closely associated with our organization both at a personal and professional level. As President Institutional Review Board, he has driven research, provoked thought, steered reflections and deliberations, ensured protocols, and helped keep our research scientifically punctilious and ethically sound. He conceptualized this journal and made it a reality. Please welcome Dr. Shamaran Nandi.
I first want to declare a conflicting interest. I'm not here because of my great merit, but mainly because I am Mithu Alur's brother-in-law. It was she who elevated me to the professor, to the editor-in-chief of this journal, which I've enjoyed, and all the work has been done by other people. And I know that just before today, there were so many mistakes in the previous version of the journal that Sati Alur and Dr. Radhakrishnan worked day and night to produce the final copy. And I think that they and everybody else should be thanked for producing such a beautiful journal. The history of the journal really begins many years ago when the Institutional Review Board was constituted in 11 years ago. And at each meeting of the Institutional Review Board, I used to quote Michael Faraday, the great English physicist, who said that the purpose of research is to publish. And if you don't publish, all the research that you do flies away into the thin air. And about 2 years ago, Dr. Alur decided that we should have the journal, and we've all together worked very hard to produce this, and I'm very proud of the final product. Now, I have to talk about the way forward. The way forward, of course, is to keep the journal alive. And I propose that the editorial board has a meeting once a month, a Zoom meeting, so that we can discuss the next issue. The second is that we have to improve on the content. I think the editorial, you'll see the issue. The editorial is fine, but the journal is too local. There's too many articles from here. We should not only have articles from the rest of India, but we should have more articles from abroad, relevant to us here. Then we should also have a review. We should have peer review, and my suggestion is that the peer review, one peer reviewer should be from India and one person should be abroad. And we should have people judging their articles and correcting the articles, the PDF version, like all the great journals do. And I'm sure that by the time the next issue comes out in December, we'll have corrected many of these. My suggestion also is that a journal that comes out twice a year is not noticed as much as a journal which comes out quarterly or even bi-monthly. And we should try next year to produce the journal quarterly. And with that, I must say, and I must thank everyone who's worked on the journal. and especially Dr. Loor, who gave it inspiration. And finally, it's a great start to have Dr. Chandrachud, the Chief Justice of India, and my friend Dr. Farooq Odraja here to launch the journal. Thank you for having me.
I'm sorry, I keep pushing this stool back because I'm really too short. And we have some in reality, very tall people out here. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Nandi, for your illuminating talk and for making us realize that research is not just a scientific necessity, it is a human responsibility. Because every study, every trial, and every idea pursued today has the potential to change the lives of generations tomorrow. So thank you. And now it is my privilege to introduce an eminent jurist and visionary leader of the Indian judiciary, Dr. Dhananjay Yashwant Chandrachud, former Chief Justice of India. Justice Chandrachud has had an illustrious career spanning decades of service to the law, educated at St. Stephen's College, Delhi, and later at Harvard University, where he earned his doctorate in judicial sciences. He combined academic brilliance with an unwavering commitment to justice. He served as a judge of the Bombay High Court and later the Chief Justice of the Allahabad High Court before being elevated to the Supreme Court of India. In November 2022, he assumed office as the 50th Chief Justice of India, a position in which he guided the judiciary with wisdom and foresight. Throughout his tenure, Justice Chandrachud has been known for his progressive and humane judgments on issues of equality, privacy, individual freedoms, and social justice, influencing the constitutional landscape of modern India. Your initiatives, sir, and your suggestions of implementing an equal opportunity policy and installing modern technology such as kiosks and QR navigation systems in the Supreme Court itself brought accessibility as an issue, as a center stage issue. Laudable efforts, and that makes you a warrior. Very few do walk the talk, sir, and you did. Thank you for that. We are honored to have you amongst us today. We hail you with warm hearts and invite you to do the honors of launching the Journal of Disability and Inclusion, Research, Neurorehabilitation and Empowerment. I also would invite Dr. Udwadia, Dr. Nandi and Dr. Metualur to participate in this glorious landmark moment. And yes, I would invite a very special guest, Minister Ashish Shelar, to please join us on stage to do the honors, sir. Can we hear a louder applause, please? This is a momentous, historic moment in the history of ADAPT. Thank you so much. We would like the claps to go on. Heartiest congratulations, watershed moment at ADAPT. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ashish ji. Thank Thank you for doing the honors. Ashwati. Can we request that the dummy be wheeled out? And it's my honor and privilege now to invite Justice Chandrachud, former Chief Justice of India, to deliver his keynote address.
Dr. Mithu Allur, Dr. Farooq Udwadia, Dr. Shomiran Nandi, Dr. Ashish Shelar, all the very distinguished doctors who are present here, both from India and overseas, everyone associated with ADAPT, whose hearts have brought them together this morning, and all the guests present here. A very good morning to all of you. The launch of ADAPT's first journal, the Journal of Inclusion and Disability, finds a deep resonance in all our hearts, which is why we are here. My gratitude to Dr. Shomiran Nandi, the editor-in-chief, whose pioneering work as a surgeon at Sir Gangaram Hospital in Delhi and mentorship of generations of doctors have shaped the character and identity of the medical profession. Every Saturday morning at 8, Dr. Nandi is unfailingly at his class for his students at Gangaram, whether it was during or after or before COVID. To Dr. Farooq Udwadia, whose wisdom finds reflection in his writings, his commitment to patient care, scholarship, and profound understanding of the linkages between medicine and society, continue to inspire us all. And to Mithu, to Dr. Mithu Allur, the founder and guiding light of ADAPT, whose vision of inclusion has touched thousands of families. To be in your company this morning is both humbling and energizing. Each of you represents not just excellence in your fields of endeavor, but above all the moral courage to take up causes when no one thought of them. The courage to reimagine the transformative potential of science when combined with care, inclusion, and human dignity. The edifice of our Constitution rests safely on three pillars: liberty, equality, and fraternity, each of which has an inseparable connect with human dignity. These are not just phrases frozen on constitutional parchment. They are the architecture of a living, vibrant republic. Today, as we gather around yet another milestone in the social existence of ADAPT, we witness much more than the birth of a publication. This is a turning point in India's long road towards inclusiveness, as it links contemporary advances in medicine with our vision for a just and inclusive existence. The journal is founded on the belief that objectivity, analysis, and reason constitute the fundamentals of science. But this launch is a part of a broader narrative in which law, policy, science, and the lived voices of persons with disabilities move forward together in the realization that together our voices are critical to reimagine the society we wish for us and for the future to inhabit. Malini Chib's autobiography titled One Little Finger originates within the ADAPT family. She writes poignantly about communication and agency in places where voices have long been silenced. Through the use of a single typing finger, she reclaims her narrative and shatters the barriers, not of cerebral palsy alone, but barriers imposed by society. Her work reminds us that inclusion is not theory, but a lived reclamation of voice. As Neil Marcus, a prominent figure in the disability rights movement, said, "Disability is an ingenious way to live. Allow that ingenuity to influence how we draft policies, create structures, and design schools and cities." Standing here at the intersection of the potential and the possible, I feel a deep personal resonance. Kalpana and I are parents to two wonderful girls, Priyanka and Mahi, born in a remote village in Uttarakhand, who came into our lives during my tenure as the Chief Justice of the Allahabad High Court. They live with a rare neuromuscular condition called Nemaline myopathy, which challenges them in simple everyday tasks that so many of us take for granted. We struggled, as so many families do, to find medical professionals who knew something about this. Find a school whose computer and science labs provide physical access to these children who are blessed with a searching social conscience, and a home in Delhi that could be accessed on their wheelchairs. Every public space reflects the same inaccessibility. Our lives had to be built around their needs. Accessibility for everyone must become the default for every space. I remember how during the intrusive and difficult diagnostic process for my elder daughter in the PGI in Lucknow, which involved the taking of a sample of tissue with no anesthesia, she cried as she said, "I do not want my sister to go through this." That moment stayed with us. What we could not bear was the pain our little girl was enduring. Yet in that moment, her instinct was not for herself but for her sister. Even in the most fragile of circumstances, the purest form of strength is the ability to care for another. Dignity is no more than an abstract desire. It is a design problem that must be tackled not eventually but now. Today's gathering is not just ceremonial. It's a recommitment to our belief that our society must anticipate human variety, that inclusion cannot be postponed, and that scholarship from journals like the one we have inaugurated today must move from paper to practice. We must together honor the Constitution's promise by beginning here in this room and reverberating out into every school, clinic, courtroom, and home. Institutions are important in our journey towards an inclusive society, not merely for the services which they deliver, but for the ideas they represent and the change that they enable. For well over 50 years, ADAPT has adhered to that paradigm. Founded in 1972 by Dr. Mittu Alur, what began as a modest project for schooling for children labeled spastic blossomed into able, disable all people together. ADAPT is an acronym which personifies inclusion. ADAPT offered education, treatment, vocational training, and parental assistance under one roof at a period when disadvantaged children were all too often overlooked by public services. Over time, it expanded into teacher training programs in both urban and rural communities, launched community-based rehabilitation initiatives, and established an advocacy platform that influenced public attitudes, language, and policy. Its impact has affected thousands of lives, not only by aiding children, but by empowering families, educators, and communities, something which I saw during my walk through this morning. If ADAPT's early decades were about hearing and affirmation, the last decade has been about institution building, a shift from individual effect to systemic design. Today's debut represents the latest step in that journey. In addition to providing care, they are also contributing to scholarship. The journal represents science which lives in the community, and a community which trusts in the rationality of science. Hence, this journal is not just a publication, it is ADAPT's newest promise to the community it serves. In her memoir, which is titled Being Human, an unrepented memoir of a disability rights activist, Judith Human writes, and I quote, "When institutions do not want to do something, claiming it is a safety issue, it's an easy argument to fall back upon. It sounds so benign and protective. How could caring about safety possibly be wrong or discriminatory? The sentence is an urgent reminder that what masquerades as care, if it goes unchecked, becomes a source of exclusion." The application of this lesson is in the work by ADAPT, which questions the easy justifications that allow inaccessibility to continue. They demonstrate that equity is more than just treating everyone equally. It is about understanding the hurdles which our mental attitudes and our physical creations impose on persons with disabilities. It is about ensuring that each person has the tools, opportunity, and environment they require to thrive. That is the most evolved form of equality. The creation of equal opportunities for the disabled is not a gift which society confers. It defines the very society that we build now and for the future. The central idea in Helen Keller's essays is that the tragedy does not lie in disability, but in the attitudes towards it and the systems, the social systems around it. The tragedy lies not in what nature creates, but how others handle their lives in response to disability. Today, I'm privileged to be in the midst of people whose work exemplifies Keller's philosophy in action. We participate in the launch of a journal that unites scholarship with lived experience, a pairing which is far too rare, but vital if we are to truly understand disability. Martha Nussbaum, a philosopher, refers to the capabilities approach, the belief that ultimate justice is allowing people to do and be what they value. This concept connects strongly with disability rights. As a judge, I saw numerous situations where systemic barriers, whether architectural, procedural, or attitudinal, eroded the dignity of people with disabilities. In her memoir, Haben, the deaf-blind woman who conquered Harvard Law, Haben Girma reminds us that success is not about disabled people overcoming their condition, but about institutions overcoming their barriers. Her journey to Harvard was also possible because technology was adapted and systems were made accessible, showing us that inclusion is never an act of charity. It's a design choice that unlocks human potential. This journal has the potential to do precisely that by telling stories in the language of data and lived truth. Initiatives like this journal are important because they exist in a unique space where activism meets academia and advocacy meets evidence. It is a place where the story is one of rights, not charity, of respect rather than pity. Most importantly, it reminds us that inclusion is not a favor that we grant, it's the fulfillment of a constitutional and moral obligation. As we celebrate this launch, I hope we also see it as an invitation to policymakers, scholars, educators, and citizens to engage with the complex realities of disabilities, to challenge complacency, and to build a society in which the question is never whether someone belongs, but rather how we can ensure that each one of us belongs to a universe in which disability is just another reflection of its diversity. I want to briefly speak about disability rights in India. Where do we stand? This is an arena where constitutional ideas, legislative reform, and judicial interpretation intersect in profoundly humane ways. Over the years, I've had the opportunity and responsibility to interpret the law in instances that directly affect the dignity, autonomy, and equality of people with disabilities. Our progress has been genuine, but it has also been uneven, frequently spurred by landmark decisions and sustained campaigning rather than fundamental change. Often, the true test of our constitutional values lies not in grand declarations, but in how we respond to the everyday struggles of individuals who seek nothing more than an equal chance. In the case of Om Rathod versus the Director General of Health Services in 2024, a young applicant who was successful at the NEET exam, but with over 80% mobility impairment, aspired to become a doctor. The disability assessment boards turned him away consistently, based solely on statistical benchmarks. But we insisted in the Supreme Court that judgment be based on what we could do, not on what he lacked, on what we could do, not what we had set up to deny. we conducted a reassessment by a good doctor by the name of Dr. Satyendra Singh, an experienced medical doctor who uses assisted devices, and that showed that he was capable of pursuing an MBBS degree. The decision shifted the focus from disability to ability and set the precedent for how medical admission should be reimagined. This judgment became the forerunner for the National Medical Commission's interim guidelines on disability and medical admissions. Yet progress in regulation came with fault lines. In an article recently written in the print, Dr. Satyendra Singh, who is himself a physician with a mobility impairment and an intervener in the case before the Supreme Court, pointed out the fault lines in the National Medical Commission's interim guidelines, framed in the aftermath of the judgment. The guidelines, he explained, reduced the worth of a candidate to arbitrary physical tasks. Can you climb stairs? Can you bear weight on your limb? As if medicine were measured only in muscle and bone. They ignore whether a ramp could replace the stairs, or whether technology and support could enable the student to practice medicine effectively. In doing so, they shift the burden from the institution to the individual, demanding that the disabled body adapt while the system remains rigid. The so-called requirement that a candidate must have both hands intact, with intact sensation and sufficient strength, was censured by the Supreme Court as an ableist and unconstitutional rule. Equally invasive was the insistence on self-declarations, where students must spell out what they cannot do, a process that diminishes dignity and entrenches exclusion. Representation too was tokenistic. Only one person with disability, without deep grounding in disability justice, was placed on the drafting committee for the rules. But despite repeated judicial directions to revise these norms within fixed timelines, the NMC has continued to delay, leaving institutions and candidates without clarity. These fault lines remind us that progress in the courtroom must be matched by sincerity in policy. Dr. Singh speaks not as a distant advocate, but as someone who has lived this reality. He writes, and I quote, "I too have a mobility impairment. I cannot stand unsupported on one leg. Stairs have never been my friend, and yet I serve in a medical institutions. I have taught, practiced, published, and argued in the highest court in the land." Likewise, we have the example of Dr. Suresh Advani, one of the greatest oncologists who has ministered care on a wheelchair. We must guard against reverting to rigid clinical checkboxes. The system must center on human capability, not just medical percentage, and that remains a crucial ongoing conversation. This is precisely why in Om Rathod, we went beyond statistical disability to grant admission for a disabled student at the MBBS degree course, because lived capability, not numerical percentages, must guide inclusion. Another young girl who came to knocking at our doors in the Supreme Court got the same direction that she should be admitted to the government medical college here, one of the government medical colleges in Mumbai. She was good enough to get admission to a government medical college, but was denied only because she didn't have full strength in both her hands. The Supreme Court intervened. The other day, a young lawyer who appeared for her came to me after my retirement and said, "I just wanted to tell you that she's doing brilliantly in college." Perhaps the greatest and the clearest testament to this constitutional journey came when the Supreme Court revisited its own position on who can serve as a judge. In an earlier ruling, the Supreme Court had barred blind candidates from entering the district judiciary. The rationale was that you must be able to assess the demeanor of a witness in a murder case, for instance, or in a rape case. How can a blind candidate assess the demeanor of a witness? So was the argument. That exclusion has now been overturned. The reversal is not just a legal correction, it's a moral one. It affirms that the capacity to judge does not lie in the eye, but in the mind and in the heart, and that the judiciary, like the republic it serves, must reflect the full range of human possibilities. Again, in Vikash Kumar versus Union Public Service Commission in 2021, a civil service aspirant with a writer's cramp, which is called dysgraphia, had been denied the services of a scribe simply because his condition was not recognized as a benchmark disability under the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act of 2016. We determined that the refusal was illegal, identifying reasonable accommodation as a fundamental component of equality. This principle, derived from the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, has now become a judicial standard for determining whether public institutions are truly inclusive. Empowerment is not shaped by the law alone. It is also shaped by the stories we tell and the images we see. In Nipun Malhotra versus Sony Pictures, again in 2024, the Supreme Court dealt with a film which reduced persons with disabilities to caricatures, passing it as humor. There was a person who suffered from dementia who was called Bhulakkad in the movie. There was someone who had a stammer, and the movie referred to him as an atki hui record. I remember that still. The court urged the entertainment industry to frame guidelines for respectful, authentic representation. When disability is shown only as a pitiable condition, it robs individuals of dignity as much as any denial of opportunity would. But when storytellers choose authenticity, they expand our capacity for empathy, belonging, and shared humanity. From this standpoint, there is something intrinsically beautiful about Amir Khan's latest contribution, Sitare Zameen Par. Our daughters have watched it thrice, each time with a high five, complimented with lots of popcorn. What these judgments really show us is that equality is lived in many forms. It is shaped as much by how society portrays difference as by how it designs its common spaces. Culture teaches us who belongs. Architecture decides who can enter. When the two work together, dignity moves from an aspiration to an everyday reality. A turning point in accessibility jurisprudence materialized in the decision in Rajiv Raturi versus Union of India. The Supreme Court stated unequivocally that accessibility of public spaces is not a favor, nor is it simply a future hope. Rather, it's an enforceable fundamental right that stands shoulder to shoulder with every other liberty granted by our Constitution. We called upon the Center for Disability Studies at Nalsar in Hyderabad, Dr. Amita Dhanda, to do a whole comprehensive research project on public spaces in India. We established timetables for new and existing public infrastructure to meet universal design and accessibility requirements, and we introduced social audits for the first time, allowing progress to be objectively measured and enforced. In so doing, accessibility was elevated from a question of optional compliance to a standard of accountability. For people with disabilities, this decision represented more than just legal reform. It was an acknowledgement of their dignity, autonomy, and the promise of a society in which barriers are gradually removed. Following the Rajiv Raturi judgment, the Union government issued harmonized standards for public infrastructure, transport, and digital platforms. These are welcome steps, though the call for binding statutory rules under Section 40 of the RPWD Act still remains an unfinished task. The conversation over accessibility has subsequently spread to the digital realm. In a major decision, the Supreme Court of India has recognized digital accessibility as an element of the right to life and personal liberty. The decision in Pragya Prasoon and in Amar Jain versus Union of India tackles the exclusion of people with disabilities from digital know your customer, or what we call KYC processes, and calls for broad reforms across regulatory and service frameworks. The Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, MeitY's guidelines for Indian government websites, which is GIGW 3.0, now mandate that all government websites conform to WCAG 2.1 level AA standards, a critical policy step that, if faithfully implemented and independently monitored, could bring true accessibility into our digital lives. In the field of education, in Disabled Rights Group versus Union of India, the court made it clear that reservations in colleges and jobs for persons with disabilities are not just tokens of goodwill, they are a concrete promise of equality. Disability rights in India are at the crossroads. The legislative framework is stronger than ever, grounded in the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act of 2016 and informed by progressive judicial interpretations. But the lived experience of many persons with disabilities still reflects systemic neglect. That is why research, policy innovation, and ongoing public participation are critical. We have to continue to shift from a welfare to a rights-based approach in which accessibility, reasonable accommodation, and inclusion are viewed as fundamental guarantees rather than as concessions. A young Rhodes Scholar wrote to me several years ago and said, I want to give up my chance to do an MPhil and a DPhil at Oxford and come and work with you as a law clerk in the Supreme Court. And I said, why on earth would someone want to give up a Rhodes Scholarship and come and work with me? But he came there not to learn, but I think Providence brought him to the Supreme Court to teach. He told me some of the basic facts about the lack of accessibility in the Supreme Court. With his help, we set up a website, a CAPTCHA for the website, which was not only visual, but which was also audio for persons with eyesight impairment. We completely redesigned our digital framework in the Supreme Court. We conduct a social audit of the entirety of the Supreme Court premises. And finally, I'd like to just refer to a personal reflection on law meets life. For me, as I said, this became a question of life, not just a question of law. As a parent to daughters with Nemeline myopathy, my spouse and I have lived in the most intimate sense the reality that the law seeks to address. Every threshold too high, every stair without a ramp, every document without an accessible format, these are not abstractions. They are the barriers that determine whether a child may attend school. A young woman can take her position in the profession, or a citizen can assume her rightful role in society. They are in truth the difference between exclusion and belonging. I recall vividly the countless small negotiations that defined our ordinary days. The search for schools that would welcome, the worry about whether a house had been designed with their need and dignity in mind, the question of whether a journey could be made without humiliation. For a parent, these questions weigh not only on logistics but on love. They are reminders that our children are constantly fighting for the space that others at times take for granted. It is in those moments that the abstract promise of equality becomes an urgent flesh and blood demand. This lived perspective has shown me the true stakes of inclusive design and reasonable accommodation. They are not technical mandates, not the language of bureaucratic compliance. They are the scaffolding of human dignity. A ramp is not merely concrete poured at an angle. It is a bridge to education, to work, to friendship. Screen reading software is not simply a technical add-on in procurement. It is the voice by which knowledge is claimed. Reasonable accommodation is far from being an act of benevolence. It is the recognition that human beings come in infinite forms and that our public spaces, our schools, our workplaces, and our cities must be built to embrace that infinite diversity. Every family in its own way grapples with vulnerability, whether through disability, illness, age, or circumstance. Just as I was driving here, I got a call saying that my 80-plus mother-in-law has just had a hip fracture in Bangalore. Each of us will at some moment need a world that is more accommodating, more humane. The task for inclusion, therefore, is not the responsibility of a few. It is the need of all. To design for inclusion is to build a society that reflects its highest ideals, one where difference is not erased but celebrated, where dignity is not conditional but guaranteed. That is why the movement from welfare to rights is so vital. Welfare is something which is bestowed, something that can be withheld or withdrawn. Rights, in contrast, are owned. They are the foundation of citizenship. My own journey as a father has made me believe with even greater conviction that accessibility, accommodation, and inclusion must be claimed in that language of rights. Only then can we create a society where no child, no parent, no family feels that they stand at the margins of our shared circle of life. Just 2 weeks ago, as we packed the last of our belongings and prepared to move into a new home, I was struck all over again by how profoundly environment defines our ability to belong. Our house is more than just bricks and walls. It has been tailored by necessity for the needs of Priyanka and Mahi, from wheelchair accessible entries to a custom ICU corner with respiratory support and space for therapists and nurses. I remember standing in the empty hallway as a contractor adjusted one final rail near the bathing area and thinking, this is not privilege, this is inclusion. It's what every family should find and build into the world around them. This is the minimum a society must guarantee its people. For families like ours, suitable housing is not an optional comfort. It is essential to life, learning, and sustenance. And even if I, as a parent with every possible resource at hand, must wait months for a home that can sustain my daughter's needs, how much more urgent is the call upon our institutions and our cities to keep pace? Now, from burden to innovation and a freedom metaphor, we must overturn the calculus that treats accessibility as a cost to be minimized. The truth, borne out by evidence, is that inclusion is innovation's engine and prosperity's ally. Consider the curb cut effect. The measures that are designed for a specific barrier end up improving life for everyone, for older adults, parents with strollers, delivery workers, travelers with luggage. Accessibility in this light is civilization's most enduring innovation, a design choice that compounds social return. The same pattern holds in the digital commons. When we build websites and apps that work with screen readers, captions, high contrast modes, and keyboard navigation, we serve not only people with disabilities, we enhance usability and reach for all users. Markets see this as a dividend as well. Multi-year analysis show that companies leading on disability inclusion outperform their peers with higher revenue growth, net income, and economic profit margins because they tap a vast talent pool of the disabled, reduce turnover, and unlock product innovation. Inclusion is not a concession to ideals, it's a competitive strategy that strengthens balance sheets and societies alike. Beyond firms and websites lies the deeper economy of dignity. The World Health Organization UNICEF Global Report on Assistive Technology estimates that 2.5 billion individuals need one or more assistive goods, such as wheelchairs, hearing aids, or communication apps, but nearly 1 billion are refused access. That is more than just a procurement gap. It's a barrier to education, work, and independent living. When helpful technologies reach people, participation increases. When they don't, exclusion burdens families, schools, employers, and the public purse. On the subject of costs, the conventional wisdom is mistaken. Thoughtful universal design and early accessibility can often add marginal upfront costs while averting for far higher expenses from retrofits, litigation, and lost productivity. Think of it this way, it's actually more expensive to leave people out than it is to include them. Economic experts have found that the money we lose from not letting people with disabilities work, go to school, or get good health care is much, much greater than the small amount it costs to make things accessible for everyone. All this brings us back to the Constitution's promise of liberty. Our fundamental document guarantees liberty of thought, expression, faith, belief, and worship. But liberty without accessibility is like a book which is sealed shut. It exists, but it cannot be read. Instead of just adding a little detail to a building or website, we need to think of these things as what they truly are, tools for freedom. A simple ramp isn't just a convenience, it's the hinge that opens the door to a building for someone in a wheelchair. Captioning on a video isn't just a helpful note, it's the voice that allows a hearing impaired person to understand the conversation. And assistive technology isn't a crutch, it's the key that unlocks knowledge for those who couldn't access it before. When we design with inclusion at the core, we are not adding amenities, we are unlocking freedom in its most practical form. Accessibility is simply engineering freedom for all of us. And the evidence shows that when we do this, our societies become smarter, fairer, and more prosperous. And then my final call. I have spoken of the social deficit in realizing rights and dignity for the disabled. Equally, there is a real need for spurring the growth of robust medical research in the diagnosis and treatment of several forms of disability, including rare genetic conditions. At present, the cost of some of the new therapies and drugs, say for Nebelin myopathy, is prohibitive. How do we provide cost-effective care? Take a case of sickle cell anemia, where the IIT has provided homegrown, low-cost treatment. At a public health policy level, funding tends to be directed to those areas which will result in impacting the largest number of people. Justifiably so, because the largest number of people had suffered from malaria. So public health funding naturally goes to those areas where you require or you impact the largest number of persons. But that cannot be the only test. This journal, to my mind, will provide a benchmark for research and academic writing. The private and public sectors must be encouraged to invest in providing low-cost solutions for countries in the global south, including India. In treating as we are here for the launch, let us remember that inclusion is not a kindness we offer, but a right we are bound to uphold. It is built in the classroom, in the workplace, on our screens, on our pavements, and in our laws. It begins with listening to voices that have too often been silenced and ensuring that they shape the future we all share. My hope is that this platform, under the auspices of ADAPT, becomes not just a repository of research, but a bridge between knowledge and lived experience, a reminder that a society is measured not by how it treats the powerful, but by how it embraces those who confront the greatest barriers which we impose on them by design or by accident. The work before us is unfinished, but each step we take here brings us closer to a world where dignity is not demanded but simply lived. And therefore, in conclusion, we celebrate the great vision of Dr. Mithu Allur and everyone associated with ADAPT, which has taken dignity for those who need it the most to a different level. May we have 1 million more ADAPTs and 1 million successes for them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Can we have a standing ovation, please? It was intellectually stimulating and at the same time moving our hearts. ADAPT is an organization which is all about heart and mind. And here we saw a beautiful convergence of both of heart and mind. Your lecture, your talk, sir, resonated deeply with us because we are working in the same areas. And to quote you, inclusion cannot be postponed. Can we have a loud applause once again to the statement made by our chief guest? Inclusion cannot be postponed. It's a matter of right, not charity at all. Quoting from the journal, disability is not a deficit. It is a dimension of human diversity. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. You poured your heart and mind and intellect into your talk. It really reverberated with all of us, and I'm very sure Dr. Meetu Alur can identify with your own personal journey with your children. And we as an organization, we identify with all the issues that you were talking about rights, about accessibility, about universal design, and about dignity. Thank you so much. I would request all of you to please sit down now. And I would now invite a very special guest, a very special person. Thank you, thank you. I get my voice back again. I would now invite a very special guest, a very special person who has been our friend since his student days. We have witnessed each other's journey of growth. Ladies and gentlemen, I am talking about Mr. Ashish Shelar, Minister, Culture and Information Technology, Maharashtra. Sir, I would request you to please come and say a few words and show your support like you always have, I think right from your teenage years. Thank you so much, sir.
Now I must say it's a good afternoon. We started with the morning, reached up to afternoon. Honorable Chandrachud ji, Dr. Simran Nandi ji, Dr. Farooq Udwadia ji, and our great Meetu Alur ji. I am here only to wish well for and congratulating for this new journal. And that's the first reason I am here today. The second reason I am here today is simply because I am a part of ADAPT family. And from our young days, I'm always used to come here for many functions and be part of this activity. Thirdly, I must also say why I'm here, because I wanted to wish all of you well and wanted to, in a way, welcome you all in my own constituency. And as I always know, that Meetu Alur is like a superstar hero Amitabh Bachchan. There is a dialogue in Dawn. Dawn को पकड़ना मुश्किल ही नहीं नामुमकिन है, वैसे मीठू अलूर जी को रोकना मुश्किल ही नहीं नामुमकिन है. Because who else can dare to do and allow somebody like me to speak after Dr. Chandrachud ji? Only Meetu Alur can do that. So pardon for and forgive me for the same Chandrachud ji. And why I'm saying that it is difficult in a sense, in a good sense, to understand Meetu ji, because I know those days, in my young days, when I was a part of this vicinity, this neighborhood, when there was nothing over here. It was a part of a larger part of our Mahim Kri. And at that time, somebody who came here with her own team, very little team, tried to find the space, construct a building, and we used to play here, and then she used to gather those who need the most in the society, our old Divyang friends. So she was always a tough to go for her own task. She started the spastic, which converted to the ADAPT. She was the first to start such institute. Then she is the first to propagate the idea of special university for those who need the most, that is Divyang friends. And I must say she is the first of her own kind to launch such kind of journal which discuss about disability and inclusion. So I wish you well and I wish you success. Obviously, when I was listening to Chandrachud ji, I realized, and he made me to realize, that being IT Minister of State of Government of Maharashtra, I am lacking at many more places which are still vacant. And I admit the same. And I must say that Mituji, you have provided this platform for me and my government and state government of Maharashtra. What do you mean by digital literacy? It is not simply to those who can access to it, but also to those who unfortunately cannot access to it. And it is not a favor, but it is a right for which we have to work for. I will not take much of your time, but I commit here that being IT Minister, I will set up a special committee. I'm announcing it today itself, that will set up a special committee to have the digital literacy in a way of inclusive way. And I can only tell you, because Mituji, आपको रोकना मुश्किल ही नहीं, नामुमकिन है. If you request Dr. Chandrachud ji to help us, guide us, and also tell us how to go ahead with this, obviously we'll take his advice, but with my request, I'll request you to use your good office to influence, request Dr. Chandrachud ji for the same, and I commit for the same. Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for making this commitment on this very august platform with lot of witnesses out here, and we will hold you up to your promise, sir. Thank you. Here we have a leader who's not just a bright young mind, but with keen intellect and exemplifying leadership with his heart in the right place. Thank you, Mr. Ashish Shelar. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for just a few glimpses which would surely give you an insight into the character and personality of this journal and why this matters. How this is lobbying for a shift in thinking and practice beyond legal obligation and well-meaning philanthropy towards an equity-driven, solution-based culture which shifts the emphasis from the person's disability to his potential. We hope that this journal will be a revolutionary platform, and it'll be a place where a lot of minds converge and collaborate, learn and change. We are now going to have some few passages being read from the journal, and for that I would first invite Dr. Ketna Mehta, founder of Nina Foundation, an educationist, researcher and disability rights advocate dedicated to empowering people with spinal cord injuries. Please welcome Dr. Ketna Mehta. I would call all the readers up on stage. Dr. Sanjay Nagral, Professor Gautam, Mr. Nikhil Chib, and Varsha Huja, and Manju Uttam Chandani. And now we can have the music, please, as all our readers are coming. Thank you, Lucas.
And it's such a pleasure and an honor to be here. And thanks to Dr. Allur and the entire ADAPT team for giving us an opportunity to be part of this momentous occasion of the launch of the Maiden Research Journal. I'm privileged to read out an extract which appears in the journal, penned by the greats Dr. Samiran Nandi, Dr. Mithu Allur, and Dr. Farooq Udwadia, who are the editors. Inclusion and disability are no longer peripheral subjects confined to policy documents or advocacy platforms. They are central to the discourse of a just, equitable, and progressive society. The Journal of Inclusion and Disability India emerges from this very conviction that academic research, lived experience, and practice must intersect to shape a more inclusive world. India is home to a diverse population of persons with disabilities, whose realities are shaped by a complex interplay of social, cultural, economic, and political forces. while legislative frameworks such as the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 mark a critical step forward, the everyday inclusion of people with disabilities in education, employment, healthcare, public life, and decision making remains a work in progress. Research, therefore, plays a vital role not only in documenting gaps and advocating solutions, but also in generating context-specific knowledge that is often missing in global discourse. This journal is born out of the urgent need to create a dedicated, credible, and accessible platform for such knowledge, one that is rooted in Indian context while being globally relevant. It seeks to bring together voices from academia, policy, civil society, and the disability community itself. By fostering interdisciplinary dialogue, we hope to contribute to evidence-based policy making, inclusive pedagogy, innovative practices, and more importantly, social change. My compliments to the entire team and thank you.
Thank you so much, Ketna. Thank you so much. And now we have Professor Gautam Mandal, Senior Professor, former Chair, Department of Theoretical Physics, TIFR, member IRB, who has flown all the way from Bangalore to be here with us. Please welcome Professor Gautam Mandal.
Thank you, Mitudi and ADAPT, for giving me the honor of being a part of this momentous event. So I'm just a mathematician and a physicist with very little knowledge of the world of disability, except for my fleeting acquaintance with Professor Stephen Hawking because of my subject overlap. But anyway, thanks a lot, Mitudi, once more for allowing me to be the part of this event. So Mitudi has asked me to read out two extracts from this journal, both from stalwarts in the area of diversity and inclusion. So the first contributor is Michael Bach, who is the founder of Canadian Centre for Diversity and Inclusion. He is from the Toronto Metropolitan University. His article is called Advancing Knowledge for Inclusion in Troubled Times. So at a time when polarization and conflict are intensifying in communities, countries, and on a global scale, there is an unparalleled and urgent task to explore the foundations of full inclusion and equality. More than ever before, we need to unpack how certain groups are devalued on the basis of their differences from norms too often made natural by dominant groups. Norms which on closer examination are but ideological tools to sustain the processes of marginalization and exclusion. Finding alternatives begins with hearing the voices of those profoundly excluded, the poorest of the poor, and the marginalized of the marginalized. In these troubled times, the importance of fostering solidarity with these excluded groups so that full inclusion can take root and flourish across borders and divisions local to global cannot be overstated. In this context, the launch of the Journal of Inclusion and Disability Research, Neuro-Rehabilitation and Empowerment is much needed and welcome. Its very title demonstrates the disciplinary boundaries it crosses, connecting rehabilitation and empowerment, guided by the beacon of full inclusion. People with disabilities, especially those who face barriers because of their neurodiverse ways of learning, knowing, and communicating, including people with intellectual, learning, developmental, cognitive, and psychosocial disabilities, are among the most excluded groups in society. Bringing an interdisciplinary approach to examining the barriers operating in education, employment, healthcare, the justice system, in the regimes regulating legal capacity and a person's right to decide and others, and exploring research-informed pathways to inclusion is a pressing and urgent priority. This was Michael Bach. Now there's a small extract from Daniel Mont, who is from the Center for Inclusive Policy, Washington, D.C., USA. His message goes, advancing full new inclusion and equality for persons with disabilities who on average are at a serious disadvantage according to every indicator, including poverty, education, employment, health, violence, and more, requires thoughtful analysis that can help identify, develop, implement, and evaluate good practices to end exclusion. Undertaking such analysis requires high-quality data fit for purpose and indicators that capture the lived experience of persons with disabilities. The Washington Group Short Set, WGSS, questions have become the international standard for censuses. They identify people with difficulty doing basic activities that put them at risk of exclusion if faced with environmental barriers. As this journal goes forward, it can influence research into the proper use of data and indicators so that society can develop policies and programs leading to the full realization of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. That was Daniel Mont. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mandal. And I would now request Mr. Nikhil Chip, Trustee ADAPT, economist and restaurateur, to please read some passage.
Good afternoon, everyone. My extract is short and sweet, so I won't bore you guys. I'm reading from page 23 of the journal. Is that up there? Cerebral Palsy and Holistic Management by Dr. Meetu Allur. My personal interest in disability is because of my daughter Malini, who was born with cerebral palsy. It was in 1966 in Calcutta when my daughter Malini was born. Knowledge of cerebral palsy was virtually non-existent in India at that time. Neither me nor my husband had any idea of what cerebral palsy was. In India's premier institute in Delhi, in front of a group of young interns staring at my weeping daughter Malini, the doctor examined my daughter and said brusquely, "Your child is a spastic. She will not be able to achieve very much as her brain is damaged. She will be a vegetable and there is nothing much you can do about it. Once the brain gets damaged, it remains always damaged. The damage is irreversible." We did not accept what they said. My sister had just got married to a doctor living in the UK. My brother-in-law, Dr. Shomarao Nandi, leading gastroenterologist, was the registrar of Addenbrooke's Hospital, Cambridge University. They welcomed us to their home and arranged all the appointments to assess our baby daughter, Malini, then 1.5 years old. Malini was assessed as above average intelligence, 130 IQ. For us, this time in England was key. Professionals treated her and me with great care and great sensitivity. Their whole approach to her changed our lives. My daughter flourished. I decided to study more on the subject and did my first course at the Institute of Education in London and became a special educator. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you so much. You have a lived experience with your sister Malini and, of course, your mother and your family. I would also continue reading from Cerebral Palsy and Holistic Management. I'm Bhavna Mukherjee, CEO ADAPT. In 1972, when we returned from England after 6 years, there were still no special schools for children with CP in India. The situation was fraught with negative responses from prominent people. I faced a barrage of opposition and barriers. The first question I was confronted with was, why educate them? An eminent citizen of the city said, "Why bother me too? There are hundreds of normal children needing education." The health minister met me. He asked me, "Are you talking about plastics?" He hadn't heard of spastics. A vice chancellor said when Mali was ready for her degree, and I took her to the college for admission and asked for introduction of reforms such as increase in the time given and introduce a writer. He said, "Why do you want to bother to make her do a BA? It is such a useless examination for her to just stay at home." Fortunately, the late Prime Minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, did not have such a mindset. She met me, heard my story, and reacted with great compassion. In 1972, together with a few friends and members of my own family and parents of disabled children, we set up an organization called the Spastic Society of India. The first professional for the center was myself, Meetu Chib, Nibos, now Allur, by then a qualified special educationist from London. Two other professionals who joined the society through the British Council and the Overseas Development Agency, now called Department for International Development, were Leslie Gardner, principal psychologist of the UK Spastic Society, and a speech and language therapist, Asha Kumar. A technical exchange program was set up, and a team of professionals from the UK regularly worked with us. That's the end of my passage. And now I would introduce Satyan Bordoloy. He's not just a friend of and a great supporter of ADAPT and a great friend of Malini, but he's also a rights activist, a filmmaker, a writer, and a journalist. Please welcome Satyan Bordoloy.
And I also have a piece in the journal. Please read it. It's the review of Sitare Zami Par. But I have been told to introduce three people who are from ADAPT, who are also my friends. The first one is about Utpal Shah. Utpal Shah passed his SSC and HSC with the help of ammunitions provided by us and other concessions we had fought for. He completed his master's in commerce. He worked at our skills development center and later at a pharmaceutical company for 10 years. He is married, has a daughter, and has rejoined ADAPT as a senior accountant. The second person I'm reading about, Lucas Barreto, is sitting right there behind there. Lucas? There he is. Lucas has been with ADAPT forever. Lucas Barreto, who has polio, has been with ADAPT for over 2 decades. He first joined the Skills Development Center as a faculty member and has continued contributing his IT skills to national and international projects and conferences organized by us. Lucas has 2 children and is today the IT officer at ADAPT. The third person is again one of my closest friends, and he is one of the most outspoken persons I have ever met, disabled or non-disabled. And he has actually provided me with some of the most hardcore opinions about disability, which one doesn't hear about. Nilesh Singhit has done his master's in English literature. He has worked with the Human Rights Law Network and the Center for Disability Studies, Nalsar University of Pune, of Law, Hyderabad. He has been involved with the ADAPT Rights Group and has been appointed to the Accessibility Audit Committee set up by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India. Thank you.
Too many tall people, I keep shifting this stool for myself. Please welcome Manju Uttam Chandani, project management professional and extensive experience and passion in the field of disability, education, and advocacy. Manju Uttam Chandani.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank Dr. Mithu Allur and the team at ADAPT for giving me this opportunity to read. Transforming policy. The system excluded them. Earlier, I had believed that we, or civil society, must do everything, that disability is a private individual tragedy. I now believe that it is a public, not a private event, and that government, as the main trustee of a nation, must play a major role in bearing responsibility for all its citizens. We had not looked at the broader picture. We, NGOs, had let the government off the hook. Education is a fundamental right for all children, regardless of class, gender, minority group, or ability. Consequently, we needed to engage and participate in governance at a national level. I began engaging with the government. The strategy used was more engagement, interaction, persuasion, and of course, pressure, as well as by way of lobbying and advocacy across the country. Through the power of the media, a multi-level strategy using multiple methods. We targeted political change, educational change, legislative change, structural change, advocacy at the national and international level. Page 35 of the journal. The idea has always been to decentralize services in this large country. A profusion of regionally based and autonomous societies grew with our help, based on our first model. Nationally Adapt, earlier known as the Spastic Society of India, has promoted the growth of services at Kolkata in 1974, Delhi 1977, Bangalore 1980, and Chennai 1985, and through their courses, the others. These centers, in turn, spun off peripheral services in their regions, which in turn created services catering to the individual needs of each child with treatment and appropriate rehabilitation techniques of cerebral palsy. 29 of the 31 states have replicated the same model, combining education and treatment under one roof. Today, no one is questioning whether they can be educated or not, but how they should go about it in mainstream regular schools, keeping to the law and constitution of the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Manju. And now the last reader of the day, Dr. Sanjay Nagaral, Director, Department of Surgical Gastroenterology and member, IRB. Please welcome Dr. Sanjay Nagaral.
Thank you. So I'm supposed to read to you an extract from the journal on why and how we should do research. But before I do that, with the permission of Dr. Allur and ADAPT, I want to deviate from the script to just tell you that there's been an interesting sort of connection I've had with two individuals sitting in the front row, both of whom you heard speaking. And it has also something to do with what I'm going to say. So the first is Dr. Nandi. And in the year 1992, as a very young surgeon, I went to the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. I had heard a lot about him. And he can be a very imposing personality, almost scary. Some of them who have worked with him will bear with me. So I was sort of sitting next in the library, and he called me and said that he was running the National Medical, he just started the National Medical Journal of India. And he said, come in. And he said, can you correct this article for me? So I said, sure, I will try. So I sat down very diligently and made lots of corrections, suggestions, looked at references. And lo and behold, the next thing he told me is that, okay, will you write for the next issue? And that started an association till today. And after that, I think we have written lots together. So, you know, when you talk about writing and research, it's also about building connections and meeting people. But there's also a small thing about Justice Chandrachud. So we started a journal called the Indian Journal of Medical Ethics, started by one of my ex-professors in 1993, and all of you know about the journal. Dr. Nandi, incidentally, was also the editor for 2 years. But we would write about lots of ethics issues. And this is something for you, Justice Chandrachud, that when the Aruna Shanbag case was being heard, and that's one of the landmark cases in this country, you know, I read the case because we would write about it in the journal a lot. We covered that case a lot because the whole debate around withdrawal of care in the terminal illness, etc. And Justice Chandrachud actually has quoted at least on 4 or 5 occasions from the IJME in his judgments, including one of my articles. And I must share this with you that I have used this as a brownie point with many of my young students who say that, look, when you write, when you publish, even Supreme Court judges can read and write. So this is something that I want to share with all of you. Okay, now to my script. So this is about when and how we should do research. So the importance of research for professionals, research is an essential pillar of any profession. That's what makes it, I think, a profession. It not only drives the advancement of knowledge, but also underpins the delivery of safe, effective, and evidence-based care. Active involvement in research sharpens a carer's ability to critically assess emerging scientific data, integrate new findings into practice, and make informed decisions. And ultimately, this leads to more accurate diagnosis, better treatment outcomes, and more efficient subject-centered care. The field of the care of the disabled is constantly evolving with new discoveries, technologies, and treatments. And again, Justice Chandrachud referred to treatments, but which are extremely expensive but are available across the globe. Professionals who are involved in research or who critically consume and apply research findings are better positioned to keep pace with these changes. Evidence-based medicine, which integrates clinical expertise with the best available research evidence and patient values, has become the cornerstone of medical practice. But perhaps in India, we should add that people should have access to that treatment and it should be affordable to people. Moreover, research promotes innovation and the advancement of science. Professionals who conduct or participate in research contribute to the discovery of new tools, therapeutic interventions, and preventive strategies. Clinical trials, for instance, are essential for testing the efficacy and safety of new treatments. I don't have to tell you that India is today the sort of part of the world where lots of clinical trials are being done. And again, the Supreme Court has been seized with issues related to regulation of clinical trials in this country, but that's another discussion. But by involving these trials are on the cutting edge of advancement, can offer their subjects and wards access to novel therapies that may not yet be widely available. Research is also a pathway for professional development and academic growth. For instance, in academic medicine, a strong portfolio is often necessary for career progression. It's a reality that, and this is for some of the young people in the audience, that the way you're tested is by what you have published and what research you have done in many, many aspects of the growth of your career. It allows doctors to publish their work, present at conferences, and collaborate internationally. The word probably should have been healthcare workers. Furthermore, doctors who engage in research are better mentors to medical students and trainees. And I know Dr. Nandi doesn't like to be praised, and perhaps he can't hear me, but if you can, this describes you to some extent. That because he has constantly been involved in teaching, research, I think he makes a much better mentor and help to cultivate a new generation of clinician scientists. So that was my script. Sorry for deviating a little and allowing me that extra time. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you to all our readers. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The excerpts were very carefully selected by Mr. Sathi Allur to give you the exact personality and temperament and character of this journal, which beautifully came out, starting from the personal journey of Dr. Allur to many other areas and issues which have been addressed in the journal. So congratulations once again for the journal, and I would here say that our constitution says, we the people of India, which includes we, which means able and disabled, both people of India. I would now open this. If anybody has to say something, we have the mics in the audience, or ask something. We have a very, very short time, a very short window, because our chief guest needs to go. Sir, just a minute more, and then it's a vote of thanks.
Thank you, my dear friend. Well, it was very, very motivating, inspiring what Dr. Justice Chandrachud said regarding accessibility and what is happening for the otherwise able children. But as I am in charge of inclusive education and promoting it through schools, I realize that yes, when we do the training program, everything is good. They like it. You're right, ma'am, this, everything. But reality is, society is yet not ready for this acceptance. So through you or through all those who are capable of doing it, I would like to have some more programs or some more innovative lectures to inspire general public. In schools, if parents, there are few parents who have children to be cared for are okay. But the rest of them still have a big question mark, and when you look at them, they are nodding, yes, good, very well said, but it is not accepted. So what we still require is something that will inspire the entire society to be with us and accept this accessibility, this inclusive policy wholeheartedly without asking any questions. I hope in general people will take it up. Thank you so much.
And this is to Justice Chandrachud. Growing up, I'm a person with disability, and growing up, I was not accepted by society. At that time, this was years ago, and I used to say, who will go to a shop and knowingly buy a chipped teacup? If I was going to buy crockery, would I knowingly pick up something that is broken? And I always believed that. Today you have proved me wrong. By adopting your two daughters and by what you spoke, I salute you. Because it really is, knowingly you have gone ahead and what you've done is amazing. So today, really hats off to you, because this is what I felt growing up. Thank you.
What a beautiful thing to say, Manju. Nobody goes to a china shop to buy a chipped cup. And our chief guest has just proved everybody wrong. Anybody else who would like to take the mic?
This is a pointer to all the plenipotentiaries sitting here. The word disability is intrinsically discriminatory. Can we have legal support to take this word out of the lexicon? Thank you.
Professor Nagral, Professor Nandi, of course we all believe in evidence-based medicine. Who does not believe in evidence-based medicine? I'd like to remind both of you that the march of medicine is a chronicle of change, and evidence changes. Therefore, do not forget the poor houseman and the registrar who makes an observation which is important. Great advances in medicine have been also made by sheer observation. Some great advances. Semmelweis, for example, the person who discovered smallpox, for example, Lister, for example. They were all observations that were made. Evidence-based medicine is important. I believe in it. I look out for evidence also, but evidence is not sacrosanct. I just wanted to remind you all that. Would you agree?
Good afternoon. I am Jawaharlal Shanmugam. I am a guest here. I am a well-wisher. I am part of ADAPT's family. The way Dr. Chandrachud spoke, it looked like as if he has rendered a marvelous judgment itself. In fact, his words should echo, resonate throughout the country, that people can take up what he said about the disability and inclusion. In fact, I am a public interest litigant in Chennai. I am not an advocate, but thanks to seeing Dr. Chandrachud through YouTubes and all those things, made me a good litigant, because I have appeared before the Honorable Chief Justices of Madras High Court, Mr. Sanjay Kishan Kaul, Justice Indira Banerjee. They were all next to him. In fact, Sanjay Kishan Kaul was number 2 to him. So thank you, sir. Your speech was wonderful, fantastic.
Thank you, all of you. We close the open session now. There's paucity of time, so I would now welcome our CEO Operations, Ms. Prabha Hari, to give the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Dr. Meetu Allur and the entire ADAPT team, it is my privilege to extend the vote of thanks this afternoon. First and foremost, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our chief guest, Justice Chandrachud, for taking the time to be with us today, to inspire us with your words, and to formally launch this journal, which marks a big milestone in the journey of ADAPT. So thank you for being with us this afternoon. Your unwavering commitment to upholding constitutional values, protecting human rights, and promoting dignity resonates deeply with the vision of this journal. We are grateful for your words of wisdom, which remind us that inclusion is not charity, but a matter of social justice and human rights. A sincere thank you to our editorial board, headed by Dr. Shamaran Nandi and Dr. Farooq Udwadia and Dr. Meetu Allur, for your thoughtful reflections and sharing your worldview with us. Dr. Nandi, your leadership, scholarship, and commitment have been instrumental in shaping this journal. Dr. Udwadia, your unwavering support has ensured that this platform will nurture knowledge, dialogue, and advocacy on disability and inclusion for years to come. Can we please have Dr. Allur and our presidents with the Justice on stage? We'd just like you all up here before we close the afternoon. Justice Chandrachud, thank you so much for coming this afternoon. Dr. Shamaran Nandi, Dr. Farooq Udwadia, Dr. Shamaran Nandi,
Now I would request all of you to please stand for the national anthem.
I think before we sing the national anthem, there's one person who deserves a very small word, and that's thank you. And that is our founder president, Dr. Meetu Allur. The wind beneath our wings. Deep respect to you, Dr. Allur, for conceptualizing this journal so it does not remain a mere publication but a collective voice that seeks to transform attitudes, policies, and practices in society. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for taking the time out to be with us on this very, very special day. Thank you to our donors, thank you to parents, our patrons, friends, and well-wishers. We will have the national anthem, and thank you again very much.
जनगणमन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उज्जल जलधि तरंगा तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मागे गाए तब जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us on this journey till now and further. Thank you.